Never in history has there been a job like, and yet the American presidency as we know it today may never have existed had it not been for one man.
I think one can debate Washington's intelligence and perhaps his political savvy, but what you cannot debate was the fact that this man was the embodiment of the revolution, and in fact now would become the embodiment of the new American Republic.
Washington is the only president who was ever unanimously elected, who ever got every single vote in the Electoral College, and he got that twice.
Number 1, George Washington, Federalist, 1789 to 1797, 57 years old, from Virginia. George Washington's inauguration took place on April 30th, 1789 at Federal Hall in New York City. As the first man to take the oath of office, Washington added the words, "So help me God," establishing the very first presidential precedent.
So help me God.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Number 2, John Adams, Federalist, 1797 to 1801, 61 years old, from Massachusetts.
If you think about following George Washington, how does one follow a person who is the American Cincinnatus?
Oh my God, can you imagine how poor John Adams must have felt upon succeeding to the presidency, to follow this man?
He was Harvard educated, yet insecure, enormously ambitious, yet oddly humble.
Adams is a wonderful character. I mean, you've got to love him. He's erratic. One day he's up, one day he's down. I think there may have been a little imbalance there in his system. He craved fame and power, but he always pulled himself back and said, no, I must make sacrifices for my country. Some days he thought he was on top of the world, and other days he thought he was just the lowest failure on earth.
John Adams is a figure who was in many ways racked with self-doubt. At the same
The election of 1800 set 2 precedents in American history. It was the first election in which the press played a big role. And for the first time in presidential politics, power was peacefully shifting from one political party to another. In this highly contentious election, the founding party of the nation, the Federalists, had been defeated, and the popular leader of a new political party was moving into the White House. Number 3, Thomas Jefferson, Democratic Republican, 1801 to 1809, 58 years old, from Virginia. Thomas Jefferson was the first president inaugurated in Washington.
On the day of his inauguration, Thomas Jefferson walked to the unfinished Capitol to deliver his inaugural address. In one of the most important statements ever made by a president in any inaugural address, he tells the assembled group, "We are all Federalists. We are all Republicans."
Jefferson is succeeded by one of his own. The president who follows him is his Secretary of State, his friend, his associate, really his right-hand man for over 20 years.
Number 4, James Madison, Democratic Republican, 1809 to 1817, age 57, from Virginia. He was eminently qualified for the job. A veteran of the Revolution, author of the Constitution, a Jeffersonian Democrat, and a Virginian.
John Quincy Adams served his country from boyhood until literally the day he died. Born in 1767 near Boston, he wasn't even a pimple-faced teen when his dad took him to Europe as a personal assistant on diplomatic missions. He grew up to be America's best ambassador and its worst smiler. He was a hit as Monroe's Secretary of State. But he wasn't a lock for president in 1824. There were 4 candidates, including Andrew Jackson, but no one got enough votes to win outright. The House of Representatives voted and chose Adams for president. Why the House of Representatives voted for Adams is the big problem. In what was called a corrupt bargain, Adams made Henry Clay, the Speaker of the House, his Secretary of State, apparently in exchange for Clay supporting Adams. JQA was an honest guy, but it looked like a bribe. And Andrew Jackson, who got the most votes, was the sorest loser ever and helped make Adams' presidency miserable. Adams supported Clay's plan, called the American System. It involved building roads, canals, a national university, and more. Jackson also had a plan. It involved all his pals in Congress blocking everything Adams wanted. Jackson won their rematch in 1828, but Adams won a House seat in 1830 and helped lead the anti-slavery movement. In 1848, he had a stroke on the House floor and died. Hey, retirement's not for everybody.
Andrew Jackson called himself a Jeffersonian Democrat. Thomas Jefferson called Jackson a dangerous man.
Thomas Jefferson didn't like men who bordered on fanaticism, and Jackson seemed to him to be, at best, uncouth and at worst dangerous. But when you get right down to it, Jackson clearly was a lineal heir to the Jeffersonian legacy.
Number 7, Andrew Jackson, Democrat, 1829 to 1837, 61 years old, from Tennessee.
The hero of the common man, the old hero, Old Hickory. He was the type of man, a complex individual to say the least, as all great individuals are. He detested distinction and privilege. He really felt that he was a voice of the common man.
He was the true father of Jackson's Democratic Party, having organized it in the 1820s. And he was Andrew Jackson's hand-picked heir in 1836. This endorsement gave him the election. Number 8, Martin Van Buren, Democrat, 1837 to 1841. Age 54, from New York.
Van Buren was the ultimate political protege and the ultimate political machine politician. The skills he had as kind of a backroom political organizer were great at making him a builder of a political party, but did not serve him so well in terms of actually leading the nation as
The election of 1840 was a flamboyant affair, the first presidential campaign to feature open public rallies, songs, and slogans.
They would roll out the cider barrel when Van Buren's people would start to speak, as well as the image of the log cabin, and with chants of, Van, Van, he's a used-up man. They called Van Buren Martin Van Ruin.
In contrast, William Henry Harrison was touted by his Old War nickname, which he got while fighting Indians at the Battle of Tippecanoe. Tippecanoe and Tyler too was the slogan. John Tyler, of course, was Harrison's running mate. Number 10, John Tyler, Whig, 1841 to 1845. John 51 Tyler, years old, Whig, from Virginia, 1841 to 1845.
John Tyler's never
51
really
years old,
credit for,
from Virginia.
Is the way one of the things that John Tyler's never really all given of the powers enough credit for, of the office is the way he gives an inaugural address of the office. He takes the oath of office and essentially sends he gives an inaugural address to members of the Whig Party after he takes the oath of office that he and essentially sends a message. He proves that to members of the Whig Party and to the nation at large that he is in charge.
He was a thin man,
he proves that
delicate,
in the years
blue eyes. He was a thin man, delicate, blue eyes.
In the fall of 1844, Americans elected a new president, a dark horse candidate whom nobody anticipated, but everybody embraced because he pledged to finish the work that Andrew Jackson had started. Number 11, James K. Polk, Democrat, 1845 to 1849, 49 years old, from Tennessee.
The best way to understand Polk is to understand Jackson. Polk saw himself as someone who was going to fulfill this Jacksonian doctrine. What would Jackson do? This is the mantra that Polk seems to repeat almost every day he's in office.